Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I wanted to talk a little bit about do I like my thoughts or do I like my thoughts? Because those are the only two options OCD will give you most of the time, and because it feels like that's the only option, because it feels like the most real option as well, and that's where we get trapped into then feeling completely awful about ourselves. But before I deep dive into that, subscribe to the channel, let us know what you think, comment on this video as well, let me know if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. So I think what I really want to highlight first of all over here is that we all know at this point that OCD is going to go after the things that we care about the most, and exactly in the areas of our life where we don't want its interference or intrusion the most, right? So let's say someone has a fear of being a bad person. Now, that person may not care so much about being a bad person at work, but they will care about being a bad person, let's say, with their husband or their wife. And then they will also think about, wait, but if I'm afraid of being a bad person, then why am I not afraid of being a bad colleague or an employee? Because I should care about that. But because I don't care about that and I care about this, then it must mean that this thing is more real and the other one is not that much. So then I need to care about what my husband or my wife think about me to this level and to this extent. It means it's real. It means that I need to pour in all my concern and worry into this thing, right? So it feels like there's some legitimacy in that fear then, and we've all been through this thought process, right? Of like really thinking, if I don't care about this and I care about this, then this must mean it's real. And it can be the other way around as well, right? Because someone might actually care far more about what their colleagues and people at work think about them versus their husband or wife. And you have to see that both examples of these people, one cares maybe about them as a partner, and they care more about like who they are as a parent perhaps and a family member, versus someone who cares a bit more about themselves as an employee, their ability to be productive, their ability to prove themselves as capable, their ability to make more money and also be able to pay for rent and pay for food and provide for the family. So they're considering that role far more important than maybe, if their husband or wife is upset them with them, they're like, yeah, fine, whatever. I mean, that doesn't have many consequences. And so you have to then also then think about that what are the specific areas of your life where OCD is trying to really keep you in that trap of feeling fearful and anxious, right? Just because you have a fear of being a bad person in the context of a marriage doesn't mean you have to feel fearful of being a bad person in all areas of life. Although I will say that majority of the people that I work with, whatever their main big fear is in their team, again, let's say fear of being a bad person in a relationship OCD context, a lot of them will also be concerned about what their family members think of them, what their friends think of them, what society in general sometimes thinks of them. So a lot of the times I see people's main big fear play out in multiple different areas in life rather than one. But even if it's just one specific area in your life, that still needs to be worked on, because it's far better to be in a far more accepting and peaceful place with that fear rather than being in place of just paralyzing anxiety, because where does that get anyone? Nowhere. And it actually ends up taking away a lot of like joy and pleasure from our daily regular life as well. So this knowledge that OCD goes after the things that we really want to hold dear the most and hold close to our heart the most, this is important, but this will not take you further in terms of your recovery progress, especially if you're suffering in a chronic format. Because a lot of people who are watching this video, you probably have been here for many years trying to prove yourself over and over again. Oh, this is just OCD. Oh, this is not actually real. Oh, this is not this. And you're still in that cycle. If you would have been able to prove your way out of it, you would have been able to prove it already. You would have been out of it already. But clearly, it doesn't work. And a few important things to remember over here. One is intrusiveness doesn't only show up in the form of intrusive thoughts. Anything can be intrusive. It can be intrusive emotions, it can be intrusive urges, intrusive physical sensations. It can even be intrusive audio sensations, right? If you're afraid of listening to a song because you think it might get stuck in your head, the song might not even be playing, but you'll still hear it almost as if it is on play, and then it's almost like you don't want to hear it then. It can be an intrusive smell if you're afraid of, I don't know, let's say your partner smelling bad and then being unattracted to them. So then it will feel like, even though your partner may be wearing perfume and deodorant or whatever, but you will still feel like, oh no, but maybe they do smell bad. And you will then smell so that you can just check whether it's something there or not. So there can be an intrusive smell. There can be an intrusive taste as well. If you're afraid of ingesting poison or something contaminated, then you're going to also, if you're going to eat something, then you're going to be swallowing and then checking, is there some kind of like bitter salty taste in my mouth and or at the back of my throat? Does that mean that this thing was contaminated or had a chemical in it? Like, I don't know. So anything can be intrusive with regards to all the kind of senses that we have. And what you really have to then not do is jump into this deep dive analysis of what it means. Where is it coming from? Where is it going? What does it mean about me as a person? Is it coming from the past? Is it coming from something hidden in my brain or some sinister part of me where it's coming from? Because that's where the compulsive cycle starts, and that's where the entire pathway of disproving your fears starts. And that feeds into a lot of compulsive outward behaviors, not just the internal mental and emotional compulsions that you're doing, but also then physical behaviors in terms of avoiding certain situations or things that will bring in the intrusive thoughts and the doubt, right? And you might, for example, feel like, oh, I've been able to reassure myself out of having certainty that, oh, I'm not this kind of person. But then you will avoid, let's say, watching a certain kind of movie that you will think, oh, I don't want to watch this movie because this movie is going to put me in a position of doubt again and doubting myself as a person because it's going to make me compare. So I don't want to watch that. And that's your classic fear thing as well, fear of relapsing or fear of losing your progress. So if you're in that kind of position, clearly you still really want to hold on to this specific version of who you are and what you know yourself to be. There's a clear uh, crisis of identity that kind of like shows up with this kind of thing, because we are trying to tell ourselves, this is not who I am, this is who I used to be, and this is who I've known myself to be for my entire life. And if I am this person, or if I like things, or if I desire certain things, then I mean, that's not me. I know it's not me. And we're saying that over and over and over and over again. And the more that we're saying that to ourselves, the more stuck we're also feeling, because then the anxiety and the intrusiveness and the fear is not going away. And we end up feeling quite worse, because OCD is just one of those things that over time it actually worsens if we don't do something about it. It does not stay. If you're suffering at a 3 out of 10 level right now, but if you keep giving into compulsive behaviors and avoidance and irrational thinking for another year, then in another year it'll probably be like a 7 or 8 out of 10 possibly, because it kind of gets more intense. It compounds over time. And again, unless you are actually also working on things. So in the same way of intrusiveness, desire, likeness, or wanting things will also be intrusive. You getting certain thoughts and then feeling pleasure about it and feel like you want it can also be intrusive. And you won't be, and with intrusive things, you're not also able to tell then the difference between, again, whether it's real or whether you are purposefully thinking of that thing, or is it coming on its own, or some from somewhere outside. Where is it originating from, right? And we also then think about, well, if I'm getting these thoughts at this frequency and I'm feeling this way about it constantly for this amount of time, there must be something to it. It must mean something, and I need to get to the bottom of it. So again, our course of action also needs to be accepting the uncertainty of what it may or may not mean about us, and being comfortable with the possibility of it not meaning great things about us sometimes. There are going to be a lot of things that you're not going to like about yourself. Like this entire also notion that every single part of you is something that you have to like about yourself and you have to embrace about yourself. No, you don't. I mean, like, there are parts of my personality that I don't fully embrace. I mean, I don't like them. I'm not resisting them either, but I'm also not necessarily embracing them either. maybe I'm working on making like bettering myself in those aspects of my life, uh, but not I mean, like my body, for example, is not in the kind of shape that I would really like it to be in. Again, it's not something I like about myself, but also not something that I fully am like, no, but like self love. Like, no, I mean, I do want to work on it. I do want to change it. So it's a work in progress. So I'll see where it goes. Um, Same as you liking, let's say, sugary foods, right? Most people do. But we know that indulging in too many sugary foods is also going to lead to other possible problems in your life, possibly diabetes, possibly, like, I don't know, they say sugary foods also lead to cancer, and all that kind. I mean, depending on what kind of sugar it is. I'm not going into that, whatever that other side of things is. But point is that we know that sugary foods can cause a lot of disadvantages, health disadvantages for whatever reason. But a lot of people still have a sweet tooth, right? And they know that it's their weakness, and it's really hard for them to say no to something sweet. So they really, really, really have to hold themselves accountable and take a step back from when there's like a dessert or something in front of them. And I know that we are right now comparing sugar versus, oh, what if I actually like the thought of harming someone? I know those are two different things, but the principle is pretty much like the same. Of there are parts of yourself that you may not like, and you can just choose to indulge or not indulge to a certain extent with those things, right? And accepting the uncertainty of those things, accepting what it means about you as a person, sorry, accepting like what it may mean about you as a person, right? um, because if we want to eliminate even like, oh, but like this desire is showing up, I don't want this desire to show up in me, like you're going into absolute control mode, and you really want to dissect each and everything about your personality and take out all the parts that you don't like and keep the parts that you really like. And that kind of meticulous control is unrealistic and pretty much impossible as well. The only thing you can have is an influence over those impulses or urges that you have as a human being, and also continue to exert that influence in trying to make your life better. Like my desire a lot of the time is, I don't want to do anything, right? I mean, that was my biggest symptom when I was suffering with OCD, and I keep giving, I kept giving into it over and over and over and over again. And any time OCD has tried to rear its head again in my life, that's kind of like the very first symptom it dials up a little bit. That demotivation and that, oh, I don't want to do anything, that's where it dials up like far more. But the only difference is that 4 years ago, I would probably give into it and then be on that track for the next several months. Now, if I feel like OCD is trying to rear its head and being like, "Oh no, maybe I don't feel like doing anything. What's the point?" I might like struggle with that mood for like just an hour or two or something. But then I'm able to handle it, and I'm just able to push myself out of it and still do the things that I want to do, right? So in that similar way, that your ability to exert a certain kind of influence over certain urges, desires, impulses that comes up becomes better over time. And it's almost like a rewiring of your brain that you're able to do in order to deal with uncomfortable things in your life, and like things that you don't want to keep around in your life as well. And I know it's, again, like I said, I know it's really hard when it comes to like, especially with taboo themes and having that kind of identity crisis of like, oh, but this is not who I was supposed to be. Yes, but like nobody knows who they're supposed to be, and there are a lot of things you discover about yourself as you go along. There are probably going to be quite a lot of unlikable things about myself I'm going to discover as I grow older. Um, there have been a lot of surprises even in just the last 2 3 years of things of like I had no idea that I liked certain kinds of things or dislike certain kinds of things, and I don't like all the things that I like, and I don't dislike all the things that I dislike. I mean, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that I don't agree with all my likes and dislikes. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Um, and that's also fine as well. Again, I don't feel like I have to jump into control mode to try and like align everything with this is who I am and this is who I need to be and this is how I need to like filter my entire life out. So the identity of crisis, like we've done many videos on like, of who I am and that identity crisis. Have a look at those because that's another like separate, I would say, topic to deep dive into and coming to terms with not necessarily being who you thought you were. Because that's a very important acceptance part over here as well. So have a think about these things. Have a think about where disproving things to yourself is going. Do you think it's really leading to any substantial long term results in your life? Possibly not. Um, is there something different you can do about it in the way that you respond to discomfort? Are there behaviors that are keeping you stuck in that cycle of disproving and avoiding and wanting to just run away over and over and over and over again? um, have a look at those things because that's where the push forward and the progress for you lies. Um, Again, with different fears and themes, like there's a different discussion that happens. But I want to cover this topic just in terms of this, like, do I like my thoughts or not? Yeah, you're not going to be able to fully tell because of how intrusive it is. So then your best shot is accepting uncertainty and accepting that there's a possibility of those things and just sit and being able to accepting the discomfort that comes with uncertainty as well because you might have that longer than you want. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but again, that's classic fear of fear. What if I'm stuck with discomfort for the rest of my life? Tons of perspectives to discuss over there, but not enough time in one video. I'll see you guys on another video soon. Best of luck. And we're here for coaching services if you want help with any of your fears. Like, we all work with different themes. I work with all sorts of themes as well. And happy to break these things down for you. Bye.